way you become a good leader is learning who you are. Because I do what most SEOs don't. But every time I gave people a chance, I made a mistake. You can make a video that looks 100% realistic today with a video of Putin going on TV and saying, I am pressing the red button in 3, 2, 1.
In this episode of In the Query, I sat down with Matt Singers. He's a household name in the world of SEO because he comes from the heavy world of corporate management, working for Fortune 500 companies like Xerox and IBM. And now he runs a conference in Vietnam, the SEO Mastery Summit, an absolutely freaking fantastic event. He runs 6 companies with over 300 employees. He doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk very much indeed. In this hour-long episode, he shares some of his biggest golden nuggets in regards to management. So if you run a team, no matter the size, this episode is for you. Enjoy. Alrighty, welcome to another episode of In the Query. Today with none other than Matt Singers. Matt, thank you very much for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me.
This is an episode I'm excited for. For those that don't know Matt, even though I just did him an intro, I owe to him to know how the fuck to work with people in a larger team. Because I took your course a long time ago when I was very first hiring. When I did my very first hire, took your course and I was like, oh, what is this disc magic thing? And I found it insanely useful. It's been a great tool in the arsenal over the years, so very thankful. So today we're going to chat some management. Is that a topic that you like?
Yes, that is what I like the most.
Just
a little bit most.
So Mats, you have insanely extensive experience working with very large organizations, very large teams. And, I wouldn't try to insult you by saying, hey, encapsulate everything that you know in the next 40 minutes, because probably doesn't fit the next 40 hours. But
Easy.
Hopefully you can share a few golden nuggets. Right. One thing that I would love to know, and I think, for anyone running a team or thinking of making the very first hire, right, is what is your North Star when it comes to hiring, firing, and running a team?
My North Star when it comes to hiring in particular, and this sounds extremely simple, is hire great people. And what is great people? Great people, most people think of people with a great resume and who have done something for 100 years and so on. And that is occasionally the case. In most cases, what I tend to hire and what I tend to focus on is really finding human beings who are driven, who want to take responsibility and ownership, who have a positive outlook on life, and who have a work attitude and a work sort of cultural aspect that fits into whichever team I'm hiring to. So those are the key things. Now, that was a lot of good sounding mumbo jumbo. What does that mean in practice?
I have a question though,
Yes.
in a particular point there where you said someone that has a positive outlook in life.
Yes.
So have you ever found a pessimist that had an edge because they were able to look into the dark?
I don't believe it's about looking into the dark. The way I'll look at it, there's generally 2 types of people. There is people who have a pessimistic outlook on life, and the challenge is they go through every disaster twice. First, when they think about it happening, and second, when it happens. Optimistic people tend to only go through it once, which is when it does happen. Now, I know that sounds very simplistic, and sometimes the benefit of thinking something will happen means you do something to avoid it. Generally, even in life, I think you can always think worst case scenario. And sometimes, like by nature, I'm a perfectionist. I am the prime example of worst case scenario natural thinkers, which is also why I understand and see it being such a negative thing in many cases, because what happens fundamentally is that when you're very detail oriented, when you're constantly thinking about what could possibly go wrong, the thing is you spend so much time and effort avoiding making mistakes instead of focusing on progress. The thing is, yes, you can go through life, you can go through business without making mistakes. You just don't get very far. So my experience is people who take action, make things happen with a positive outlook tend to get further than people who are constantly crossing the I's, dotting the T's, taking every possible precaution to not fail. Simply, they tend to not get as far. So again, there's some roles when I'm hiring for a bookkeeper or an accountant, I probably want a pessimist. I want someone who goes through the numbers and get every little tiny detail right. When I am hiring most roles, that is not the case. But generally in most companies, really what you need, like I tend to call it, and it's probably hard to understand what it means, but I call it the sort of dynamic driven people. And what I fundamentally see when I say that is people who are pushing things, they're doing things, they're taking action, they're taking risk, they're trying things. So the fundamental of business fundamental is if you want to run your own business, you run it for one reason and one reason only. You're looking, I hope, for proportionate returns to your investment. When you're doing anything in business, you're saying, I can hire this person for $3,000 a month. Now, if I only make $3,000 a month, that's a bit of a dot. However, if I can hire someone for $3,000 a month and they can make us $20,000 a month, that is a very good return. Now, in business, I want to take as many risks as on improportionate returns where the chance of success kind of reversely matches the potential outcome, right? So a lot of the time people come to me and they're like, yeah, I tried to hire this person, it failed, I can't hire, and I suck. I'm like, great. Here's the thing, you might fail the first 3 times you hire, but the 4th hire or the 5th hire or the 6th hire, at some point, you're probably going to hit the jackpot. If you're putting in effort, if you're really trying your best to hire good people, at some point you will hit the jackpot. And the point is, when you hire a great person, when someone goes out and hire an Alex, they win the jackpot, and suddenly all the failures they hired doesn't matter anymore. Because even though there was a cost, both opportunity cost and a cost of hiring wrong people, the cost of hiring great people usually pays back so manyfold that nothing else matters.
I wish I could disagree with anything else to get more debate, but when it's golden, it's golden.
Right?
No, it is really good. No,
So
I get it.
that's the hiring piece.
What's the
Now,
North Side?
hiring is probably the single most important thing you ever do as a business owner. Because again, hiring great people is a skill. Now, you can use recruitment companies to help you find good people. My recommendation to anyone, no matter how much you feel you suck, no matter how bad you think you will ever be, if your goal is to be in business and if your goal is to succeed in business, I really, really recommend you take the time learning how to hire, right? Now, you can do, there's a bunch of trainings, there's a bunch of good books, there's a bunch of good resources on it, but this is one of the most important things you will ever do, right? I mean, you've worked with some great people so far, and you've worked with some not so great people. The thing is, when you hire someone absolutely amazingly outstanding, it is so good,
Oh yeah.
right? It is
Oh yeah.
so good. And whatever it takes to get more of those, you want to invest it. You want to invest the time, you want to invest the effort. Because people look at a company and they're like, yeah, the value of this company is so much. The value of your company is the people in it, right? Or, I mean, in some cases you can have patents and whatever. But in general, the value in your company is the people in it. And it makes sense to invest in hiring the right people, learning how to hire great people. And here's the thing. I've done it for many years. I don't get it right 10 out of 10 times. I maybe get it right 9 out of 10 times or 8 out of 10 times. right? But I would say the thing is, you're dealing with humans. Sometimes you hire the best human on the planet, and the day after they get hired, they go through a divorce, or their kid is an accident, or something happens to this person's life that just ruins things. And you're dealing with humans, so you can never say nothing will ever happen. This will be forever a great hire, right? That's not how humans work.
Yep.
But the best you can do as a business owner and as a manager is fundamentally putting in effort to learning how to be better at one of the most important business skills. Now, the next one, firing. So, good old famous saying, hire slow, fire fast, is great. Best piece of wisdom is, as much as you possibly can, try and set some goals for the individual that you're hiring. So try and set some goals that set a goal for month one, a goal for month two, and a goal for month three, and tell them. Share it with them and say, Alex, I'm thinking of hiring you for this customer service role. Here's the goal. The first month, here's what you need to achieve. If it comes to the end of the first month and you have not hit your goal, we're going to sit down and have a very honest conversation. But before I have the conversation with you, I sit down and I have a very honest conversation with myself. Because here's my issue. I'm a very nice guy, right? I'm a too nice guy. And I need to have a very, very frank conversation with myself and say, okay, I hired this Alex. I pride myself of making good hires, but Alex didn't hit his goal. Am I 100% confident that going forward he will? Or do I need to say goodbye to him now? If I am not 100% sure that you will hit the goal going forward, I will let you go.
So I have a question there for you, right? Yourself, with your very many years of experience, matter of fact, having become an authority in this very subject, right? You're also human, right? You said you might get it right 80,
My, my
90%
girl
of the
my
time.
girlfriend my girlfriend would call me a robot, but yes.
You know, she's still your girlfriend. I'm pretty sure she's just poking you. Pretty sure she likes the human. How could she not? God bless. So, as a human, right? You still get it right only. Big quotes, right? I'm
Yeah.
making quotes because 80, 90% success rate in hiring is humongous.
Yeah.
How do you deal yourself when you make effectively a bad hire on that conversation so that you don't let your ego get in the way and you recognize, yep, Matt's, he messed up, wrong hire, let him go.
Yeah, that is why. So I used to have a really hard time with it, particularly when I didn't have data and goals. Because again, I am a very nice guy. I don't have so much ego, so it's really an ego thing, to be honest with you. My challenge personally is often the fact that I'm too nice, and therefore I'm more likely to give people the benefit of the doubt. What I learned over many years is when I give people the benefit of the doubt, 9 out of 10 times they fail me. And what I learned from that was, if people aren't performing, the best people will perform from day one. That is
Yep.
generally my experience, right? The best people are gonna be great from day one, right? That's my experience. And what I've learned is every time I give people a chance, every time I'm like, yeah, okay, let's see how it goes, it never goes. Not never, but it's very rare, right? So obviously, occasionally in month one, like the person falls sick for a week, or like there can be things that happen that influence the numbers. But generally, if the person generally worked a month and they just didn't get to the goal, right? Of course, there's also, if your goal is to take 100 phone calls a day and you took 99, okay, that might be close enough. If the goal is 100 and you took 40, that's not the goal, right? Um, yeah. In terms of ego, again, that's why I really try and have a hard conversation with myself. Here's the thing: I track my numbers when I hire people. I track myself and I score myself and I tell myself, well, we hired this person, they didn't work month one, and I gave them another chance and they didn't work month two, and I gave them another chance and it didn't work month three. And by the end of month three, I didn't have the balls to kick them out. And they didn't work in month 4 and 5 and 6. And at month 6, I had to make a very tough thing because this was unexpected because they kept going. Honestly, my data tracking my hires told me that every time I gave people a chance, I made a mistake. So, in other words, I made a hell of a lot of mistakes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And it's interesting. I was having a conversation more specific about SEO, right, and SEO mistakes and whatnot. And maybe we can chat a bit about some SEO shop, not just management,
Yeah.
because I know you play a very interestingly hybrid role within the community. But they were asking, your biggest mistake, like choose one, like as many areas of SEO there is to fuck up, I fucked up in all of them, right? And I guess ultimately that's how like as maybe now I know something. The more you mess up, the more you know, right? Like, oh, I didn't make that mistake before. That's a new one, right? And then like, oh, maybe I was still then, right? So
Yep.
with SEO, right? How I'm very curious. I don't think I've ever asked you this. How did you end up basically becoming the management leading person within the world of SEO?
Because I do what most SEOs don't. So, what that means is I was a management coach. I left the corporate world, and initially all my clients were corporate. And I started bumping into these entrepreneurs, and I was like, okay, let me find a niche. Let me niche down on a segment, and let me make sure that segments see me over and over and over again. And I looked at who are the people who are naturally worst at managing people. And the worst one by far was developers. They're the most horrific. They're also a very funny group of people, and they're not necessarily very social, so they're a bit harder to find. And then I looked at a subcategory, which was basically SEO. I did have some experience previously in SEO, and that was why it was one of those things I could draw at. And I'm like, yeah, I had done some of this affiliate marketing, and I realized when I was in affiliate marketing, everyone that was doing it so that they didn't have to talk to other humans. Like they love being able to sit at home in some dodgy basement, program some websites, put some affiliate stuff up, get some money without ever having to talk with another human. And I'm like, that's great. They have found a great formula for making money. If they want to scale that and make a lot of money, they need to build companies. And I realized that most of them had no idea how to. And then I started coaching, bumped into a few. I started coaching people. I realized, wait a minute, this works exceptionally well. These guys who are introverts, who doesn't really like managing people, when they learn how to manage people, they become very, very rich. I'm like, that's something I can benefit from because I can help them get very rich. And most people are happy to pay a bit of money to get very rich. So that was a simple formula for me.
Let's check out.
And here's the thing. Everyone that comes to me says the same thing. Oh, I'm bad at managing people. I don't want to manage people. I don't know how to manage people. And it's all like, I don't want to do it. Can you just do it for me? Now, here's the thing. The people who go through my training and learn how to manage people change their mindset very, very quickly. Like a guy like Matt Diggity, who's probably one of the bigger introverts, if you will, was a great example. It's like, yeah, I just want to hire these people and get them to manage people so I can just do SEO over here in the corner. And that's honestly how most SEOs think. And I started working with him. Did a couple of days. I flew in. He had his team in Koh Samui somewhere. I flew in, spent a couple of days with him, and did a bunch of training. Got him and his manager's mindset on track. And if you ask him today if he want to do SEO, he will look at you like you're an alien. Because here's the thing. He have learned how to get SEO done without having to do it. Can I tell you something? There's nothing sexy about sitting writing meta titles or optimizing H1s, right? If you can get it done without you having to do it, that is every day of the week nicer, right?
Sure.
So the fundamental is most people, like, here's the thing. If you've never heard about SEO and you start doing SEO today, or you want to get into SEO, SEO is big and scary and that's a hell of a lot to learn. Management is the same. The reason why you don't know how to manage is because you've never invested any time learning it, right? Like the training I took Matt, and I've taken like the Href team, I've taken many, many people to this training. It's a 2-day training. Like 2 days, Alex.
That's not a lot of time to get good at a very good skill.
Of course, you need to implement afterwards, but in 2 days, you can learn the 80-20,
If you could
right?
learn the 80-20 of SEO in 2 days, that would be nice, innit?
That would be exceptionally good, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you
Yeah.
take what you learn in the 2 days with me and you implement, you'll become better than 90% of the managers out there. And I can say that with confidence because unfortunately, most managers and most business owners are not very skilled at management, so it doesn't take a lot. But reality is, most people, most SEOs think their business is not great because they need to learn another SEO trick. Every single time, like I run an SEO conference, every time, what do you want? What do you want? Oh, I want to learn more SEO, right? When I run the conference, when I look out over the room, 80% of the people in that crowd have enough SEO knowledge to make 100 million. What they're missing is business understanding, it is management skills. The reason they're not making 100 million is not because they haven't figured out some magical SEO trick. It is not. It is because they're lacking business and management skills. If you are an SEO right now and you look around and you're like, wow, there's people way stupider than me making a lot more money. Like, yep, they're either better at management, they're better at business, or they're better at sales than you are, right? As an SEO, if you want to make more money, if you look around and think life is unfair, other people who are less skilled make more money than you, spend more time learning business, management, and sales.
Yeah, I remember a post recently from Matt, since you bring him up, right? From Matt, that this was just around the time of the March update. So, well, the point of SEO in the beginning was never to do SEO, it was for you to use SEO as a method, as a way, as a vehicle to get good at business. And I realized just how true it is. Like, you can take any highly paid skill, right? Like, the skill will only be highly paid for so long, right? Like, SEO, the way that we understand it today, might not be a thing in 5 to 10 years at
I
all.
look at I look at it the other way around. I can go out and I can hire a decent SEO for $5,000 a month.
Hmm.
And here's the thing: I don't want to work for $5,000 a month.
Correct.
So if I'm doing the SEOing, I'm doing a job that I could probably get for $5,000 a month, right? Now, if you want to build a big business and you're doing $5,000 a month stuff, you're screwing yourself.
Yeah,
Simples.
that's fair enough. I wanted to ask you something because earlier you talk about how you ended up here is mostly because you identified this group of people that naturally were the least inclined to work with people, right? And if I remember any of my disc training right, that lands more on the C side, right, of the little disc. What would you say, or even perhaps for those that are completely foreign to this methodology, if you can give a 20-second snapshot, right, alongside this, but what would you say is the archetype or the profile that is best organically suited to be a manager?
Okay, let me answer the question in a totally different way. Let me first talk about the reason internet marketing exists as a thing. The reason why there's $1 billion of SEO courses getting sold every year is because of very, very detail-oriented people. there's a lot of people who love sucking in so much knowledge, filling up their heads with all of this stuff. And you know what they love the most? More. What they don't do, take action. There's so many so smart people who make no money because they have all the skills, they have all the knowledge, and they do nothing with it. Right? So, from that point of view, when you look at conference, when you look at the most successful SEOs, that is rarely the best SEOs. When I go through and look at the conference I run, SEO Mastery Summit, and I look at the attendee list, and I look at the top 10 people who make the most money, I would say probably one of them, if I look at top 20, one of them is probably in top 10 of the best SEOs. But most of those people are not the best SEOs. The difference is they learn something and they take action. Right? Like right now, someone can sit down, read about parasite SEO and say, that's great, let me go do it. And they literally open LinkedIn, they go on some AI generated thing, they create a post, they put it on LinkedIn, and they create 400 of them. They build some links to it. And here's the thing. Someone who take the action and do that in a month, in 2 months, in 3 months, in 5 months, will make more money than someone having learned SEO, having done SEO for 5, 10 years, who's not taking action, right? Success, in whatever metric it is, success generally does not come from knowledge. Success comes from taking action, right? And this is the core aspect. Now, when you look at managers, who are the best managers? It depends completely the type of team you have, the type of challenge you have, and the gap you have. So what I mean with that fundamentally is that anyone can learn how to manage. I am not the archetype of any kind of leader, but I spend a lot of time learning because I realized that I can spend my life sitting programming or doing SEO or whatever. I could do that myself, and I would make 5 or 10 grand a month at a peak, right? Or I could build businesses and I could 10x that or 20x that or 100x that, right? For me, it's more a question of making, there's two choices that most SEOs can do. Fundamentally, they can make the choice and say, okay, I will take action. I'm going to go and do something. And when you look at the managers from that perspective, you're looking at managers who is often going to complement you as a leader. So I have a certain personality, and I tend to hire people that are not like me, but people who complement me. So if you're extremely visionary or if you're extremely kind, you maybe want to hire some people who are very different than that. If you're extremely driven and very good at pushing people, your focus you might not be great at making sure the details get done well. So you might want to hire someone who can run behind you and fix the details, right? So a lot of time we talk in businesses, there's people who like doing the first bit, there's people who like going from 0 to 80, and then they kind of burn out, right? And then there's people who like taking it from 80% to 100%, right? And that's different people. It is very rarely the same person who takes a company from 0 to 100. Very rarely. Now, it could be a team of people. It could be a good visionary and a good integrator and so on, but it's typically people who complement each other. So when you're looking to hire a manager, I would recommend look at the role, look at what the role needs right now based on the team that's there, and then look at how does that work with you, right? How does that complement you? How does that work with your strengths and your weaknesses?
Very interesting. Like the part about hiring people that are fundamentally opposite or different to how you are in personality. That's definitely a mistake that I made. Like, oh, I really click with this person. We'll get along amazing. We're gonna do great shit. and then we make the exact same mistakes because we have the blind spots in the same place because our ADHD is the same, right? Kind of thing. Like,
100%. And this is very common, right? Like there is a good old saying that people always hire people like themselves, and it is the natural tendency, and that comes down to communication mostly. So what happens is fundamentally when you communicate, like if you love verbal communication, if you every time you want to ask someone something, you grab the phone and you call your friend, like if that's how you love communicating, you love people who communicate like that. If you phone your friend and he never answered the phone, but he sent you a text back, what do you want? And he only communicates in text, you're going to lose the friendship very quickly, right? But in business, your goal is to be capable of everything. Like business is not just one person, right? It's not just like, it's rarely the same person doing operation, doing the sales, doing the finance, doing marketing. Like that's rarely one person. With like one person might be somewhat capable of doing a little bit of it. But if you want to succeed in business, you want to grow people who become great at it. And as a human being, you're not going to be great at everything.
yeah, yeah, no chance, of course. What would you say? I mean, you mentioned a bunch already, right? But if you had to pinpoint the one that maybe you see the most often, or the one that you find the most grievous, in terms of like the largest misconception that people, this kind of like mass delusion in the world of management that you see all the time.
Leaders are born.
The leaders are born.
Yeah, that is absolutely not true. What tend to happen is when people think about leaders, they think about people who are very assertive and outgoing and comfortable standing up. They look at them as being natural leaders. Whatever your personality type is, you can learn to lead. Every single person, whatever their strengths and weaknesses are, they have things to learn to be a good leader. Everyone. So the people you think are natural leaders, they have just as much to learn as someone that's not a quote natural leader. It's different things they have to learn, but they have just as much to learn. Right.
What would you
So I would
say
say that's the
traits, top traits of this kind of great leadership that could be learned?
everything can be learned. What I would say is what I look for in leaders is generally one, people who know themselves well, people who go through the time and effort to get to know themselves and learn about themselves. You are often better at leading others if you're doing some level of development and growth yourself. If you're not going through growth, then it is hard to be a great example for other people to do just that. And if you're a leader in any company, your core role is to help your team grow and develop. Right. So for me, the number one thing I generally look at when I'm promoting people within my businesses, that is who of these people know themselves well? Who of these people are taking the initiative and consistently trying to learn and better themselves? That's probably the number one core thing that I look at for the future leaders.
Interesting. Interesting. I like that you said, that seems to be a mass. Well, I use the word myself, and you just answered to it about the concept of this mass delusion, right? Because there's always one thing, right, about like SEO. What does everyone think about SEO? That's completely wrong, right? I got that question asked today in a podcast, right?
But try
And
and think about it, Alex. If you look at yourself, like you're fairly comfortable with attention and you're very fairly comfortable standing up in front of people. Does that mean that you feel you're a natural leader or a natural manager?
absolutely not. I've
No,
been doing it for years. I still think I suck.
right. And that's the thing, right? So again, leadership is not a simple. It's like SEO, right? Like you could spend 10 years learning SEO, and the problem is you learn how much you still don't know, right? It's the same with leadership. The thing is, SEO is algorithms. Leadership is humans, right? So you can keep learning. But here's the thing, you're way better investing your time learning how to get the most out of your people than learning anything else. Because I mean, let's face it, the richest people in the world, the most successful people in the world are people who have very big teams, because that's how they become incredibly successful. And none of them are bad leaders. There's definitely leaders that I don't agree with how they lead, but I can promise you, if they were horrible leaders, they would never have been where they are, right? Never.
Okay, this interestingly ties to the next thing I was going to ask you. So the question I was going to ask you was that, given that your discipline is fundamentally humanistic in nature, right? There's no way about it. And then you say that you don't agree with how certain people lead. So the question is, what's how do you solve ethical challenges between people when you work at a large scale, between the interest of the company, the human interest, the reality of how people function, all these things? How do you play around them?
So, again, let me answer this question a bit weirdly. The way you become a good leader is learning who you are. So, how you become a good leader is very different for how I become a good leader, because you and me are very different kind of people. All people become great leaders by understanding themselves, understanding their core strengths and their core weaknesses. When you know yourself really, really well, then you can lead, because we all lead with our strength. So what I lead with is different from what you lead with. I lead with the ability to understand numbers and details fantastically well. I lead with being a very kind human being. Those are different values, different natural tendencies that I have as a human being than maybe values that you have, right? Because we are different people. And the strength of any human being is learning what makes you a great manager, what makes you a great leader, aka who are you? Now, when you learn to figure out who you are, then, and you're building a company, you have a company, and you effectively you shape that company a little bit like you, right? So basically, the culture of a company is typically the first 3, 4, 5 people in the company. They generate the core culture of the company, right? Which is why your first sort of 4 or 5 hires that stick around are the most important ones, because they are going to be very detrimental to your company's future values, right? So, with that said, your question is good. Number one is always put the company first. And what I mean with that is that, let's say that I am a very kind human and I should fire Alex because he's doing a crap job. But I know Alex is a single dad with 2 kids, and he will be absolutely fucked if he have no income. Now, here's the problem. If I put the employees before the business, fundamentally, I risk the health of the business and every single employee in it. If I'm trying to save good people for the right reasons, and I end up bankrupting the entire company and everyone losing their job, I might have done the human right thing, but I have done the fundamental wrong thing, because I have saved the, and it sounds horrible, but I've saved the weak people, which in turn meant that everyone is screwed, right?
There's a bit like the rail switch dilemma, right?
Yeah.
You
Now,
hit the train one or everyone.
here's a key thing what happens. If you have a company where you have some great people and you have some people that are less great, what do you think the great people think when someone getting paid the same as them but are doing a crappy job versus them doing an amazing job? What do you
And of
think
course,
goes through their head?
I don't have to think. Yeah, I know. I
I
know what
could
you
do
think.
nothing and still get paid well because this other dude does nothing. When you're holding on to your worst performers and not doing what you know needs to be done, you risk having your best performers leave because they don't want to be surrounded by poor performers. And let me promise you, there is no point in business where the risk of losing your best people to save some of your worst performer is ever worth it. Now, to go back to your question, a lot of the time in many companies, there are some really, really great performers that get away with being total assholes. Now,
Such as?
you'll see people who are great performers who know, no matter what I do, like I'll come in late, I'll do whatever, but I'm the best performer. I know they're not going to fire me. Right? If you let your best performers get away with that, you're putting your company in a very difficult spot. Now, here's two things that is your responsibility as a leader. Number one, a lot of the time, people don't know how they come across to other people.
Fair point.
A lot of the time, people don't realize I am in a position where I'm having a very negative impact on this company because of how I behave. Now, your responsibility as a leader is to let them know. So a conversation could be, hey, Alex, can I give you some feedback? When you tell Bob that it's okay you come in 15 minutes late because you're the best performer, here's what happens. Everyone thinks it's okay to come in late. Can you do that differently? And if you say no, then I say, well, then we need to have a different conversation. Because here's the thing. If you let your best people away with murder because they're your best people, you lose the respect of the rest of the company. And more importantly, you ruin the culture because people realize that it is okay to be an asshole in this company. And here's the thing. If you let your best performer get away with something, if you let your best performer away with coming in late, and you have someone else who come in late, and you give them stick for it, you end up in court. Like if you fire a poor performer or a poorer performer because they're late, and they can show, hey, Bob is late twice as much as I am, he's not fired. What's up? Right? So as a leader, you absolutely must confront poor behavior from your best people. Now, here's the biggest thing, and most people don't get this right, but most business owners and managers spend the most time with their poorest performers. That means if Alex is not performing, I will spend a lot of time trying to make Alex perform. Now, here's the secret to good management. You get significantly more output out of spending time with your best people than you do spending time with your worst people. AKA, if you want to try and bring a bad performer up to average, it will take a lot more effort than take a good performer and make them way better. Right? In most companies, the companies are sinking for this reason. All the management time and effort go into the poor performers. Here's the thing. The best performers are left alone because you're not a problem, so I don't need to worry about you. And you're like, hey, what's up? I'm doing my best. I'm doing a great fucking job, and my boss don't want to talk to me. What the hell is up with that?
Yeah, true.
Now, here's the thing. If you turn that around and you spend more time with your best performers, and they feel I'm getting rewarded with more time from boss man because I'm doing a great job. Here's the thing. Most people want to talk with their boss. Like when your boss said to you, hey, let's do a one-to-one today. Let's have a half an hour conversation. You want that because we all like talking to our boss. We all like talking to the person who evaluates us. Right? Now, here's the thing. If you're showing people the opposite, if you're showing them that you spend more time with your best people, that is probably one of the number one motivators out there. And here's the thing. You are more likely having a good performer perform twice of what a poor performer is doing, or twice the expectation. And here's the thing. When you push your best people, when you don't push them because they're hitting the goal, they're on the numbers, they're okay. when you don't push them, they're going to be okay. When you start pushing your best people to see what they're really capable of, you're going to realize your bad performers are not just bad performers, they're horrific performers. And you need to start hiring some new people because you see
Yeah.
people who are capable of up here while a lot of your staff is down here. And when you see your best people kicking ass, you start realizing I have some wrong people on board this train.
Yeah, very good point. Like, what are these other people doing? Like, what the heck?
Right.
The
And
difference
here's the
becomes
thing.
too stark to ignore,
A
right?
lot of the time, the reason why you will see very good performers start having a poor attitude is because they're getting no attention. They're like, well, I'm doing the best job in this company. I'm the best. No one cares about me. I can do whatever I want. And in the beginning, it's often a test. They're like, well, I'll show up late and see if anyone tells me. And boss man is like, a boss woman is like, hey, Bob was late, but he's a good performer, so I won't pull him up on it. And Bob literally thinks, no one gives a shit because I was late. No one cared. So why the hell should I be on time? Now, if you go up to Bob and say, hey, Bob, I love you. You're a great performer. And the rules are no different from you. If you want to work here, you need to be on time. So, did that answer
Very
your
interesting because
questions in a roundabout way?
no, very much indeed. It's interesting because a lot of it is highly counterintuitive to what normal intuition would be like. As in, well, hell, like as you are saying things, I can literally think of cases in the past, in my years, where I've done every single thing you mentioned, right?
Yep.
And the cascading second and third order of magnitude, like, and then then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, like, yep, by the book, all of those have happened, no question. So it's, but also like how normal a tendency is like, well, I'm a manager. I'm the leader. I'm supposed to support the team. This person is struggling. They are doing okay, right? They're a good person. They're a good fit, but they might need more training. They might need more attention. They might need more one-on-ones, right? So then, you kind of like don't want to let that person sink. So then you put the time there. Meanwhile, the guy that's getting all the job done at the other side of the room is like, "Oh, nobody pays attention to me, so I guess I'll leave half an hour earlier." And then like, "Okay, yeah, you go home early, no problem." And here I'm busy with this other guy that doesn't do crap, right? And it's so organic, right? It's such a normal tendency to veer
And,
that way
and do you
when
know, do you know what poor performers love? Spending time with their manager. They feel important.
right.
Now, the last thing is, in that case, is that also while the manager is spending a lot of time with them, they never really tell them that they suck. They never really tell them, hey man, if this does not improve in the next couple of weeks, I need to find someone else to do your job. The manager is struggling on behalf of the employee instead of giving them ownership for their performance. And they don't tell them in a clear, direct way, unfortunately, your performance is not good enough.
I have two questions here, in cascading order of distance, because you basically train people on this art, right? How would you go about when you're training somebody to equip them for themselves to then carry along the training within the organization as the organization gets larger and there's more teams and more complexity, more tracking metrics, the whole thing. When you're teaching an entrepreneur to do this, they might get it. How do you equip them so then they can teach their number two and the number
So
three?
typically what I do actually, I go in and I work with the business owner and all the managers at the same time.
Mm,
So I do this because that way everyone is keeping each other accountable. Now, just to add a little bit to that, the best way to teach people how to be a good leader is to be a good leader and show them what it looks like. Right?
right.
So the thing is, when you show people how to do the right things, when you show people how to do the right processes, when you treat them the right way, when you give them feedback the right way, when you delegate to them and give them ownership, when you do one-to-ones, you do good team meetings, then people see what it's like. And they're like, oh, boss man always did that. Now I'm a manager, and boss man tells me I should do that too. So I've seen what a good one-to-one look like because I've had a lot. I've seen what good team meetings look like because I've had a lot. I've seen what it's like being delegated to because I've been delegated to a lot. Like, does that make sense?
No, of course. Yeah. Yeah, certainly. Now, the other question that I had, and now I want to explore a bit of a different idea in the next 10 minutes or so before we have to jump. With everyone losing their freaking minds about AI and promising the silver bullet for every element of humanity, where do you see it being net positive, and where do you see it being bomb in disguise within organizations?
So let me go two directions. Number one, like Elon, I would say I'm very apprehensive about the capabilities of AI from a human extinction point of view. But let's take it in a different direction. So taking that aside and not looking at that as a potential issue, looking at it from a business side, I think AI is amazing. So why do I think it's amazing? Well, productivity is amazing. If you can pay less money and get the same work done, you can provide more value to your customers for less money. Everything else being equal, when you can, like, it's like having great processes. When you're doing better than everyone else because your processes are better, you deliver better results for less money. That is great for everyone. Everyone wins. Now, reality is sometimes companies might save some money on doing things. Now, they can spend that money on hiring people to do other things. They can maybe hire more salespeople, or they can hire more whatever, right? So fundamentally, for humanity, I see it as a great thing, right? By the way, I think there's so many global inefficiencies that ought to be fixed. And I'm looking at this in a very robotic manner, but the fact that there's produced a whole bunch of cars with a wheel in the left side and a whole bunch with a wheel in the right side is just stupidity, right? It makes no sense that we put, and by the way, when you look at cars, there's so many cars destroyed every year who are never getting sold, and they're literally just destroyed. Now, you could have half the cars destroyed if you only had to have with the wheel in the same side.
Right.
That's an
Never
example.
thought of that particular problem.
But here's the thing. I'm looking at it the same way with languages. We have all these languages that carry a lot of culture, and that's important. But when you look at it from a human element, it's inefficient. The fact that we can't simply communicate with other people
It sure is. That's why
inefficient,
there's a whole tale about the Tower of Babel, right?
right? And here's the thing. When you look at it, there's so many resources going into translating and all this stuff. If that would happen automatically, honestly, 10 years from now, I would be blown away surprised if we don't have some little equipment putting it in our ear and someone speak to us in one language and we hear it in a different language. Like, if that doesn't exist in 10 years, I'll be blown away surprised.
And
Right?
you get highly targeted ads in between
And you probably
sentences.
have ads coming in with it as well, right? If you take the free earpieces, or else you can pay a little bit
Correct.
and then not have any ads
You
in
pay
between.
the $1.99 a month.
Right. But fundamentally, and that's how I look at AI. I look at AI as an efficiency tool. Now, is some people gonna get stuck? Likely. But here's the thing. The people in the world of SEO, like, I'm in Poland, I'm in Warsaw right now. When I walk out on the street and I will ask 20 people if they know what ChatGPT is, they look at me like I'm a fucking alien, right? Like, in the world of SEO, everyone heard about it, and everyone thinks everyone on planet Earth knows about it. Here's the thing. Most people have no clue. So even if your potential job get eradicated by AI, you are part of a culture that understands how to utilize AI and therefore on its own you will be capable of doing whatever jobs, whatever things that is going to be very, very powerful. Right? Will it have
Where do you see AI misused within the world of companies at the moment?
or what am I?
Okay.
You can make a video that looks 100% realistic today with a video of Putin going on TV and saying, "I am pressing the red button in 3, 2, 1. Goodbye, the United States." Bang. And you can make that video look, you can make it impossible for people to understand that that is not reality. The fact that you can do that today scares the Jesus out of me, because honestly, like, you're talking about election interference, you're talking about news stories, you're talking, like, here's the thing. If you turn on the TV today, you have no idea what you're watching on the news, if that is factually true. You have no idea if what you're sitting looking at is an AI generated video or if it's something that physically happened. You have
Yep.
no way of knowing. And for
Yeah.
me, that, yeah, as Elon said, in the wrong hands, that is potentially very, very, very dangerous. And I could see a lot of horrific things happen with misuse of
This is my
AI.
my one big uh, gripe with AI as well. So you seen the movie? Um, Jesus Lord, why did the name just disappear off my mind? The guys that made the atomic bomb,
Yeah, yeah. Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer. Have you seen the movie Oppenheimer?
Yep.
In this one scene where this guy comes to Dr. Oppenheimer, says, "You might want to check this math. It says that there's a non-zero chance that when we press the bomb, every single atom of oxygen in the atmosphere catches fire and we all die in the entire planet." And then they run the math multiple times, like, is this like, yeah, the math does check out, the chance is there. And they're like, interesting. Like, a full extinction event is a non-zero event. Well, throw the bomb anyway. And they went with it, right? I was watching the movie and I got angry. I got actually angry, like, right? Because one thing is the atomic bomb, multiple atomic bombs, whatever, end of the world, yes, right? But one single event, right? And somebody decided to play God and says, yeah, we're gonna risk the entirety of the existence of every single living species, not just us, because mind you, us is us, whatever, right? If we wanna annihilate ourselves, that's on us, right? But no, every single living species, fuck it. And then with AI, it's a little bit the same, right? Like, the whatever potential, somebody creates that video that you were saying and puts it out there, and it's the best ever made AI video, and people go crazy and a war starts, and then, oh, you throw
Here's the
the
thing,
guy in jail.
Alex.
The
Here's
damage
the
he did
thing.
is like outsized to whatever he can get as punishment.
Reality is you can do that today with public software.
Yep. Yep.
That is with public software. Imagine what is actually possible with the things they have not yet disclosed. They have not yet shared.
Yeah. So what I meant to say, right, is like, even if, because a lot of people that are in the discussion about how to put fences to this Pandora's box released monster, said, well, you put a lot of regulation on it, for which I agree. You have to put some regulation on this thing, right? And it will be too slow because there's lobbying and whatnot, right? But even when you put regulation, right, it says, whoever makes a video of Putin pressing the red button goes to jail 30 years. Great. But then if it derails an election, even if it's 30 years, like, it's not enough time, to compensate for the damage that's done, right?
Here's the
Because it's
thing:
like,
people are willing to commit suicide to blow up a few people, right? Like, if people are willing to do that, yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's a good point. So I guess this most lightly spirited note in which to, to end up the conversation.
Yes. Great conversation.
I sincerely appreciate your time here. I've learned a lot as always, and it's funny. And when I was thinking of the episode, I was thinking like, why could I ask him that? No, that hasn't been asked before, but it doesn't matter because I've made you questions that you've probably heard 50 times, and I think the answer is always a bit different, right? And so you always get a slightly new angle. Same when you when
Yeah,
you
I think the biggest thing about management is that most of what I teach is not complicated. The thing is, it's often illogical, or when you understand why, it makes sense, but it's not typically the natural tendency. And that
yeah,
is
thoroughly
why
counterintuitive.
most people find it difficult because they're like, well, I assume I should do this. And like, I understand, like, here's the thing, there's a lot of bad managers out there, but no one wakes up in the morning and say, I want to be a bad manager. Everyone do the best they know how to do, right? And the only reason why so many companies are not very successful is because the managers don't know how to do their job. And that is not the manager's fault. Like, here's the thing, it blows my mind. Like, a company will go and spend 10 grand on sales training, but they won't go and spend any money on the most important people in the company, which is the managers, right? I see people spending heaps of money training their customer service staff, but the managers who manages them or their managers have, in most companies, zero training. It's like,
Because most people get promoted into management by being good at the specialist job, which makes no sense.
which makes no
You're a
sense.
great soldier. Let me make you a general. Eh?
Yeah,
Have you not
yeah,
seen Forrest Gump when it says, Forrest, if it wasn't because I would be wasting a great soldier, I would recommend you for the official school. That stuck with me when I saw Forrest Gump. It was my favorite movie when I was a kid, right? And I remember that scene as, if it wasn't because I would be wasting a great soldier, I would recommend you for the official school. And I'm like, that sounds like sarcastic, but I think that's proper.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's true. There's a lot of people in management that are like, how do you end up here? Like, I was good at my job. Like, but that's a different job
But
altogether.
and the difference I see, like when I go in and work with a company, right? Like the difference is huge, right? I work with one of the first companies I worked with when I moved to Asia was in Japan. They had been stagnant for like 2.5 years, been sitting around 45 people. I went to work with them for a couple of days, and in the next 9 months, they went from 45 to 90 people. They doubled the size of the company after having not moved. And the thing was, they had great people. They had people who were passionate, who had the right mindset. They just didn't know what to do. And again, there's many resources out there. Like you can start by buying some books, and just like SEO, you can learn it yourself. It just takes a hell of a long time, right? But it's definitely better than doing that than doing nothing. All right.
Yeah. What if you were to wrap it with one last piece of advice for someone who just got promoted to manager and is shitting their pants at equal parts excited for the new opportunity and is scared because they don't really know how to manage people? Be the one golden nugget for them.
Go to mattsingers.com. No, in fairness, check out all my YouTube videos and
Do
so
it.
on. I
Do
have
it.
lots of delicious free content and so on. And I also have the best management training around, which is the Effective Management Mastery. And yeah, generally, again, here's the thing: people in the early days of a new role, if I just promote you to manager, you're like, wow, I just got promoted to manager. That's great. But I'm afraid to tell my boss. I don't know what the fuck to do because he might realize or think that he made a mistake. So I'm just going to sit here and pretend everything's okay and just do whatever I think I should do. Right. So the first thing is if you're promoted into a role of management, talk with the people around you. Ask your boss. Say, hey, I want to be great at this job. What are some tips you can give me? Right? How did you manage to deliver a great performance from the team? Like, ask questions to the people around you. I know it sucks. You can feel insecure in the beginning because you don't want to seem like you don't know what you're doing, but you
Takes
are
humility.
better showing insecurity and then delivering results than not showing insecurity and not delivering results. Everything about being a manager is all about delivering results. If you're not delivering, you will not be doing that job very long.
Gotcha. Well, Matt, wish I had another 50 hours to basically get free training. because this was really good.
It would be
Very
amazing.
good.
It would be amazing.
When are we seeing you in one of these conferences any soon? What's the next place you're presenting on?
So I will be at the Gold Coast. It's probably the next one. No, actually, I'll probably be in TES affiliate in Budapest in like 2 weeks. But then I'll
Awesome.
go to the Gold Coast at a conference early October 2nd or 3rd, DMA. Then I will be in DC Bangkok in 3rd week of October. And then I will be doing a workshop for my management training before Chiang Mai SEO. And then I'll speak at Chiang Mai SEO.
Sweet.
And then I'll be in Bali speaking early December. And then the best SEO conference on the planet takes place in March next year, 10th to 14th, SEO Mastery
I
Summit
missed this
Saigon.
year's edition, but I'll make sure to not miss next year's edition.
Good.
Mats, thank you very much indeed. Bless you.
Been my pleasure.
It's been a blast. Take good care, okay?
Yes, likewise.